Oh, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, apparently a little bit more information has come out about there's supposed to be a rumoured pitch of a Star Trek series because Kurtzman's trying to save his contract by trying to show Skydance, hey, keep us around, we'll make some great Star Trek shows, even though we haven't managed to do that in the last, 10 years that we've had, control of the franchise. And they had the idea of doing an animated series with William Shatner and use his voice. I'm like, well, I guess that's the only way you could use William Shatner because he's not the man he used to be, but he's 90-something, so you can't really expect him to be. So you can't have him doing a lot of action, and he was recently ill. But he could definitely do voice work, and they could do an animated series. But so I think the idea was they were going to have a clone of him. That was what they were setting up in Picard season 3 and everything. But they could have done something really fun. Gone back to not maybe the original series, but the movie series. Maybe done like a post-Generations series or something like that. But instead, they were proposing to fill the gap in between Star Trek, the original series, the end of the original series, and the motion picture where he becomes an admiral and he's just miserable, and do a serious drama of him being miserable, like a serious, like these people. It must be Kurtzman because he had, like, through all of these failures and issues with New Trek, and although there's some individual episodes that are good and some seasons of shows kind of work and elements of shows work, there are always these things that just don't work. They're just the wrong idea, pushed in the wrong direction, and it always seems to be Kurtzman because the idea of doing an animated drama series of Star Trek, it's like if you're going to do animated, you want to do fantasy and adventure because you could do the things that budget-wise you couldn't do in live action. If you're going to do a drama series, you'd do live action because it would be cheaper because there's people sitting in rooms talking. He just always seems to just find that wrong direction and just push into it. It's like they maybe could have won a pitch with the idea of having just a bunch of maybe original movie era adventures, like because there was that was there 1 or 2 5-year missions in between the motion picture and the Wrath of Khan, or was it a 5-year exploration mission and a training mission for 5 years? I can't remember. There's like a lot of time to fill in between. I think there's like 2 5-year missions, a full 10 years. Because there was a lot of time period moving between the end of the original series in '69 and the end of the Undiscovered Country in '91, and they had like a 3-year sort of mission for Sulu in between 5 and 6, and they had all these sort of time periods built in. They could have done an adventure series during that period with Kirk and just have him voicing a younger Kirk because it wouldn't be that hard. I think Shatner he has a great voice still, and he's a talented voice actor. I think he's done a lot of voiceover work, and they could have just used a bit of AI or something to make him sound younger if they had to. It wouldn't be that much of a filter to have to do something like that. They could have had it. They just keep missing the target. Like a poor marksman, he just keeps missing the target, and it just baffles me. I'm like, you have the whole Star Trek universe at your hands, and you just can't find a single story or a single series that works. Or you do have a series that works, like Starfleet Academy could have been great. But instead of doing this great series where, they learn about being, officers and the Federation and what it all means, and, telling all these moral stories about, humanity and Starfleet and everything. Instead, you go 900 years into the future and you just have your usual person with a traumatic background and a villain that has to be defeated, and the whole season is just about defeating the villain, and the end is the goodies sort of winning over the baddies. It's like, it's so just, yeah. So how they got this wrong, I don't understand. If you can get Shatner back and not do a post-generation story where he comes back as Captain Kirk, or retell stories of Captain Kirk in his glory days back on the Enterprise, say in the movie era, because I don't think they could go back to the original series. He couldn't play that young, even with his voice. And we've done plenty of adventures in the original series. We didn't have as much in the motion pictures. We had like a trilogy and 3 sort of individual stories. And they easily could have filled the gap between the motion picture and the Wrath of Khan, or just had some adventures, post-voyage home, or, Kirk being, revived. But they didn't they're not doing any of that. They're just going to go do a depressing story about how miserable he was as an admiral as an animated series. I'm like, oh God, just if this is what we're hearing they did. This was their pitch. Now maybe it's a rumor and he didn't really mismanage it that badly, but it seems to ring true. So yeah, just so interesting, just baffling, just depressing. It's like, God, we could have maybe had Shatner back in a worthwhile series, animated series, and it looks like we're not going to get it because their take on it was just wrong and a disaster. So it just, yep, had to talk about that for a minute. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Maybe Skydance can actually approach Shatner with something worth doing. But yeah, that's the whole point, why they should take it in-house and, start all over again.